And that's what
so that's it. Let's
put people in the right places first and foremost. That's all.
Prince, our next topic.
Yes.
The sales of gold reserves between 2025 and now,
right.
And is to rebalance its portfolio. That's the Bank of Ghana. Reduce risk from high price volatility and so on and so forth. But large scale gold reserves, way to go or otherwise?
Most central banks around the world have been increasing their portfolio, the percentage of gold in their portfolios in terms of reserves. In fact, for the first time, the percentage of gold reserves had surpassed that of forex reserves around the world. And around the same time, we went and sold our gold at a reported $3,500 an ounce, when almost all the forecasts, even if you just went online and checked all the gold forecasts, it was saying it could go not less than 6,000, could not less than 5,000, and could go up to about 7,000 in some scenarios. So why are we going to sell our gold? This is one of the first reasons why this government must not get a second term. It's the first reason, number one, because they refuse to even allow an investigation as to who they sold this gold to. And I can assure Ghanaians, as of now, the only way until they relent and allow for this investigation to happen, the only way to get to the bottom of this very important issue is to change the government, because they are not going to allow for an investigation. They already voted against allowing this investigative committee to be formed.
If there's economic pressure, we need liquidation.
I said, what are they hiding? What are they hiding? Why can't you just allow us to know who you sold our gold to? What to be that? And the government cannot continue, okay?
But is that more important than the rationale?
Well, the first thing is you sold half of our gold reserves, and you say that you are not, even if I heard some MPs saying that the way they framed the question in Parliament, Massa, even if the question wasn't framed properly, you yourself should say, I have nothing to hide. So let's look at it. Here's the people who we sold the gold to, because Ghana is already on track to lose about $1.2 billion. The lowest estimation is we're losing $800 million. That's serious money. And if this thing, there's any sweetheart deal as suspected, okay, where this gold was sold at a very sweetheart deal of $3,500 an ounce, we need to know who is the sweetheart of Ghana, who is more sweetheart than the people of Ghana, who are on track to lose $1.2 billion. You know, there's been talk about cathedral, and we spent 300 million cedis and so on in a pit, and there were
PDFs.
People went to for photo ops. They said they were going to swim in a pool and all that. 300 million. It's money. It's good money. But we're talking 1.2. That's the average. Some estimates have it more. Some have it at $800 million. You know what this can do? It can even solve all these cocoa farmers that are suffering. It could solve their problems. And we're here, and you don't even want to tell us who this gold has been sold to? That's number one. And until they relent and lay bare, they must be changed so that a government can tell all Ghanaians where our gold reserves were sold to. That's the first thing. Remember, when President Kufuor in 2008, his term was coming to an end, one of the biggest scandals, so to speak, cloud that was raised about President Kufuor was that he had sold our gold. At that time, that would have been about 8-point-something tons of gold, because that's all we had since the 60s when we stopped our gold purchasing program until it was restarted in 2021 or so. So 9 billion, the man didn't even sell it. But, you know, the propaganda was so strong that President Kufuor had sold our gold. And it affected the elections. Later on, people, when they went for vetting, had to apologize. They said it was political talk, just like that. And here's a case where 18 tons of gold have actually been sold.
And don't you think you are also making propaganda?
Well, Doc, I am making my points. Okay, so when it's your time, you want to do propaganda. That's up to you. I believe I'm making substantive points.
So I want to move on.
So we had about our 9 tons of gold that we had up until Nanado's government increased to about 31. Okay, which was then increased to about 36 by this current government. Then they sold half. And they sold half. And the worst part is that this money was not even, at least on paper, it was not needed. Because our import cover had actually grown. If you take a look at our trade surplus and our balance of payment surpluses, which I did, it had grown organically to close to about $12 billion as at the time they sold this gold. Okay? It went from 8 billion, which was what was bequeathed by the previous government. It had increased to about 11 to 12. So why did they sell it? What was the rationale? There's no real justification. They said that they were rebalancing. Around the time that this issue came up, I was right here in this studio, and it just hit me because they said they're rebalancing and they've looked at their peers and they benchmarked and all that. None of these things at that time I wasn't sure, so I needed more information. So I couldn't say too much that day. I remember very well. But as of now, we know that the import cover was adequate. There was no rush. Almost all the central banks are going in the opposite direction. Ghana is one of the few countries in the whole world that rather depleted our gold reserves to increase our forest cover. And then they went to Parliament to pass a law so that they can buy more gold. Now at, in some cases, $5,000 at a higher price. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make sense.
So
very suspicious.
So you're questioning the justification and all that.
The biggest scandal in our history. They need to tell us who they've sold our gold to.
Hello, prudence.